Namaste Gurudevaya Sarvasiddhi Pradayine Sarvamangala Rupaya Sarvananda Vidyajine. Jay Sri Radheshyam. Lord Krishna Returns. Page 54. See, Nimai, dressed as a beautiful damsel and filled with the feelings of Rukmini, is sitting on the ground, shedding tears. He is writing a letter on the ground. The letter is addressed to Lord Krishna, the ruler of Dwarka. He is writing the Bhagavata Shlokas 10:52, 37 to 43. She wrote, "The gist of the verses: I am going to be married to Shishupal tomorrow, but I have already dedicated my mind and heart to you as my husband. Please come at once. If you don't, I will die." Suddenly, Nimai's Rukmini Vav changed, and he appears on the stage as Mother Goddess with her female guardian, Nityanand. Nimai, the goddess, surrendered by the devotees, began to dance. Imagine the mother of the universe, naturally filled with the feeling that she is among her children, is dancing. Her joy and happiness knows no bounds. She is dancing, and her children, the devotees, begin to sing suitable songs. Anyway, at one moment the play came to an end, so did the night. All returned to their normal senses as they were sleeping. Now abruptly awoke. As Yogama's game was also over, the actors in the various roles were now their normal selves. Krishna had entered the figure of Advaita. Now he left him, and he was the same normal Advaita. Narad has possessed the figure of Srivas. Now that Narad left him, Srivas now was their normal self. Similarly, Nimai and others were now in their normal usual figures. As a result of this dramatic performance, the house of Chandrasekhar Acharya remained filled with a kind of divine light and luster for about a week. It was so, people thought, because Nimai had danced there. One night, while Nimai was enjoying dance and kirtan in the courtyard of Srivas, the latter heard the sound of weeping. He went to the inner apartment and learned that his only male baby has breathed his last. He at once told his wife and the other ladies, "Stop this weeping and crying. Prabhu, Lord Nimai, Gauranga, is in a state of bliss in the kirtan. If this mourning disturbs him and his joy is suspended, I will jump into the Ganga and put an end to my life." To understand what is going on here, the son of Srivas Acharya, yes, Srivas from the Panchatattva, died. And he was more worried about the ecstasy of Nimai Gauranga Mahaprabhu than the death of his own child. Can you imagine the level of Saranagati, surrender, love, transcendental for Nimai that his devotees had and have for him? It's really something that we cannot calculate at all. It's when the word transcendental came in place. Srivas returned to the courtyard, but somehow Nimai could know about the sad news, and he stopped his dance. He noticed that Srivas was still enjoying that kirtan despite the sad occurrence in his house. He uttered just one sentence: "How can I leave such devotees?" Nimai, however, directs Srivas to bring the baby to the courtyard. As they laid the child on the ground, Nimai asked the dead, "Why are you leaving your parents, dear?" And lo, the dead answered, "I had just this much tenure of life here. Now I am going to the other place." The child was dead once again. Nimai said to Srivas and his wife, "Don't be sad. Myself and Nityanand are your sons. 2 sons." Then the dead body was taken to the river, and all last rites were duly performed by the devotees. How can I leave such devotees? What does it mean? Those who heard it began to ponder over it, and others who could understand the hidden meaning of the Lord's utterance felt very sad but kept quiet for the moment. Nimai became an ascetic. One day, Nimai was filled with the feeling that he was a gopi. He began to think about Krishna's hard-heartedness and cruel conduct. As Ram, he killed Bali. As Vaman, he plundered Bali. The climax was when he forsook the gopis, who had dedicated all that belonged to them for his sake. Why should I care for the insensible and faithless Krishna? Nimai thought this way and began to chant Gopi, Gopi in a state of Krishna, Krishna. It was by chance that Nimai's old classmate, Krishnanand Agam Bagish, happened to come there. He was surprised to see Nimai chant Gopi, Gopi. He, in all sincerity, advised Nimai to chant Krishna, Krishna, as it was a proper sacred precept. Nimai could not recognize him and naturally considered him an agent of Krishna. Krishna's name infuriated Nimai, made him very angry. He instantly picked up a stick lying nearby and ran to beat him. He was somehow held and controlled by his companions. The poor classmate Krishnanand ran recklessly and swiftly toward his locality. When he saw his own people, he heaved a sigh of relief and said to them, "I went to Nimai and gave him just a good piece of advice. You know what? He ran to beat me." The Brahmin community unanimously decided to take a revenge for Nimai's conduct. One day, when Nimai came to know about their conspiracy against him, he secretly said to Nityanand, "Shripad, have you heard about the Brahmins planning? I thought that Piparamul will cure the cough, but no, it only worsened the disease." What Nimai meant was that he did all he could do for the welfare of the people by way of Harinam, but they did not improve their ways. They rather thought of doing what would be injurious to their spiritual well-being. Nimai told Nityananda further, "Shripad, I have decided to be a sannyas. I will beg food from door to door. The people generally pay respect to an ascetic. Even these men who today conspire against me will bow their heads and fold their hands before me. Thus, their hearts will be purified. They will have blessings of Krishna, and they will be saved from the sins they are going to commit. An important thought here. It was by the conspiration against his own life that Gauranga took the decision of taking sannyas, not because anything else. It was a way to protect him and the Harinam movement. Otherwise, he will never take sannyas. We will see in the next pages, surely, that Nityananda, Advaita, and all his relatives, friends, and well-wishers were very sad on this decision. Because Vaishnavas are not sannyas. This was only introduced by Gauranga in order to save his own life and the well-being of the Harinam movement. So some things about the history are quite different than what the majority think nowadays. So I invite with this reflection to think, what was the real Gaudiya Vaishnavism? And if there is a different way of real Gaudiya Vaishnavism, isn't important to find out what it was and how the real Gaudiyas, companions of Gauranga, did practice, and how Gauranga himself thought this philosophy. Personally, I think it's extremely important to know the truth. When you discover that, the full world change for good, and change on benefit of your own spiritual path, that, by the way, will be free from materialistic boundaries. Nimai told about his resolve to Sachima and Vishnupriya also. It was next to impossible to get the permission of his near and dear ones for asceticism, but he succeeded in his efforts. He used all his learning, all his divinity, and above all, the concern for the welfare of the suffering humanity. The result was everyone gave him the permission freely and frankly, that they felt repentant afterward if the other side of the wool show. Anyway, one night in the month of Magh, cold winter season, Nimai left his young wife and old mother sleeping. He left his native place forever and went to Katwa, where Keshav Bharati, the saint, lived. Katwa was about 15 to 16 miles from Navadvip, across the river Surdhuni. Nimai went there on foot, fell flat before the saint, and said, "Please, sir, give me sannyas diksha." As the day broke, the news spread in Navadvip that Nimai had left the birthplace forever. The devotees formed a number of search parties and dispatched them in different directions. Nityananda said to Ma, "I think I know where the Lord has gone." I remember once he told me he will go to Katwa. Ma, I assure you, I will bring your Nimai back to you. Nityananda, accompanied by Chandrasekharacharya, Mukund, Damodar, and Bakreshwar, at once left for Katwa. They reached the destination all right and saw Nimai there in front of Keshav Bharati. Jai Nimai Pandita ki Jai, Jai Nitai. Jaya Sri Gouranga Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Gadadara Srivatsadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda. I hope you enjoyed this reading, and we will meet again in the next episode. As always, remember to like and to share this content. Let's spread the true story of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Mahavira Radharamana ki jai, Jai Nitya Jai Gaur, Jai Sri Radheshyam.